Well, welcome to the Pageantry of Life. I'm Chaz Ellis,
And I'm Ashley Williams Allen.
and I will tell y'all that it's because of Ashley that the week after Miss South Carolina, she called me and she said, I am in town. Let's go to dinner. Sitting at that dinner, she said, I realized this week that you do a lot of depositing into other people and to other things. She said, "But I think you have something in you." And I said, "Well, what do you think?" She said, "You've got some stories." I'm like, "Well, do I have some stories?" I have pageant stories, I have personal stories. And she is the one who said, "Can I deposit into you? Can I help you? I think that you have something special." And that was always in my mind was the pageantry of life. I had told several people that that was going to be the name of the show for a long time, but
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that to life.
Yeah.
And so tell me how you started the pageant masterclass.
Well, the pageant masterclass was birthed out of my experience last year judging. And I felt like there were so many girls with so much potential, but they were just missing the mark. And if I could just give them a little bit of advice, a little nudge in the right direction, I would love to do that. So that's what got me started.
So let's get started. Probably what you've seen is that diamonds and denim are our kind of theme, but Dolly Parton and her authenticity has kind of been the driving force of that.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of start in the realm of judging and judging this program last year and crowning Miss South Carolina Davis Wash.
Yeah.
How do you find that diamond amongst all that you had that you were presented with?
Well, I mean, if you think about diamonds, what makes them valuable is that they're rare. You know, when you think about rhinestones, when you think about cubic zirconium, they're a dime a dozen, they're cookie cutter. But a diamond is rare, and a diamond is brilliant, and a diamond shines. And when we were judging last year, those were the contestants that stood out. The contestants that were rare, who were uniquely themselves, and who weren't trying to be something that they thought we wanted them to be. They weren't trying to be something that the other contestants were. They were just refreshing. They understood who they were. They're very comfortable in that skin.
Um, what is it that kind of when you go in to judging and you came into this, what was your mindset? What was your expectation? Did we exceed your expectation or did we let you down?
Oh my gosh, no, you guys far exceeded my expectation. I mean, the experience as a judge was unbelievable. I mean, you guys, you roll out the red carpet and you select judges that are going to get along, are going to have a great time, and are going to enjoy the experience. But I think the biggest takeaway that I had was how much I think pageantry has changed. And this was a great example of, to me, of how it's changed for the better, because the women that I judged last year were phenomenal. And there's this community mindset, and it really felt like the girls were excited for each other, and they were just a cut above. So overall, I just thought it was a fantastic experience.
So when you think about pageantry, how has it changed from when you competed?
I mean, I think obviously I was Miss South Carolina in USA in 2002, so you guys can only imagine how much pageantry has changed since then. But I think the biggest change has been in me. When I was competing, I was hyper competitive. I was focused on myself. I came to win, and I came to win, period. And I found that when I won, it didn't change my life immediately, you know? It was a wonderful, incredible experience, and it was glamorous, and it was fun and all of these things, but my life didn't change. I was still dating the same guy that I didn't wanna be dating. I still was insecure about my body just the way that I was the day before I got crowned. I mean, all the things were the same. Um, but now looking back on it, I realize it wasn't the title that was important. It was all of the hard work I had done to get myself to winning that crown. You know, whether it was lots of interview coaching or really diving into my personal health and fitness. I mean, I struggled with disordered eating for a long time before I was crowned, and getting into pageantry really helped me harness my, yeah.
And I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
Did pageants create that? Did it intensify what you just hit on? Because I think as these young women compete, and I think we'll go down this path in a little bit,
Yeah.
but with you personally, did the pageant change you, or was the quest to being a model change you? What kind of align that for me?
Pageantry changed me when it came to my physical health because it was sort of healing. I had modeled internationally for years and years and years before I competed in pageants. And, when you're a model, you just need to be skinny. And you can be skinny fat, nobody will know and nobody will care. They just want you to be a hanger. But when I got into
Anger.
a hanger for the clothes, it's about the clothes, it's not about, but when I got into pageantry, it was about fitness. And you can't get up on the stage in a bikini and be skinny fat. You have to be fit. And so that was what I really learned. And so I started working out with a trainer. I started eating right. I started eating, period. And it was life
What
changing.
can I so let's dive deep into a little bit deeper into you judging
Yeah.
Miss South Carolina last year.
Yeah.
What if you went phase by phase and we want to talk about Davis, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, when did you know that she could be Miss South Carolina?
You prepped us with what you guys were looking for in a Miss South Carolina. And you said, she must be beautiful and she must be like a celebrity. When she walks in a room, she needs to captivate anybody that she's coming in contact with, whether that is a high level sponsor.
Well, I was glad that you were going to. I was glad you were going to kind of preface it that because we said the high level sponsor
Yeah.
and keep on.
Or whether it's a kid in elementary school. Miss South Carolina meets hundreds and hundreds of people throughout her reign, and you wanted her to be a celebrity that captivated any one of those people. And so I think we really took that to heart. And so I think, what's your mandate this year?
Well, I think it will always be that Miss South Carolina must be beautiful, and how you define beautiful is the 5 judges that we select, and I think that we put a lot of effort into who those 5 judges are gonna be for Miss and who those 5 judges are gonna be for the teen program. So when we say beautiful, I think it kind of we have to kind of line ourselves with beautiful is I do think image is a part of it, but it's about being confident in that skin, confident in that presence, and that is something that you can look at someone and say, "Oh my gosh, that is just such a beautiful person."
Yeah, I mean, so again, an interview, that is really where I thought Davis, she has something really unique because she came into the interview and she was so raw and she was so real and she was sharing a really hard story about what her family had been through. And she was connected to that story. It didn't feel like she had told the story 100 times and it had lost its, grip.
Pizzazz.
Yeah, she was very connected to it, and not only that, but that connection was propelling her to change the lives of other people. And I felt very confident that if she was the winner, that she was gonna take this year and she was gonna make an impact with all those kids who had been in your shoes. And, I mean, Davis, she just was crying on stage, and she did tear up in her interview. And for me, I produced hundreds of hours of television, and the thing that you guys probably connect to as an audience when you watch The Bachelor, when you watch, Real Housewives, is when the women get emotional, when they cry, when they scream, when they yell. And the reason that you connect to it and you lean in as a viewer is because it's one of the few times that you really get to see them be authentic. You're really seeing who they are. And so, while I wouldn't advocate crying in every job interview you go to, it was a really real moment with Davis, and she kept it together. But I felt like if she went on the Today Show tomorrow and told that story, an audience would lean in and fall in love with her.
Do you think, uh, the interview is where it's won, or do you think it is just a phase that you can accomplish?
Well, this may not be the right answer to that question, but for me, I think interview can absolutely be where it wins. I mean, you said to us, and every other judge will tell you, don't fall in love in the interview, don't fall in love in the interview, because there's so many other parts of the competition. But I do think the truth of the matter is we get to see who that woman truly is in the interview, how she's going to interact with sponsors, how she's gonna if she's showing up at a school to speak, if she's in a press conference. That's what you're gonna get, it's our only opportunity for one-on-one interaction with her, and then every other part of the pageant backs up, proves or disproves what we've learned in the interview, but I do think, you get a soft spot for some of the contestants in interview.
So one of the things I would say, and I think you would, is I always say judge each competition as if it is the only competition that they're in at that moment.
Yep,
Because, and we've said this multiple times, and I
yep.
think you can allude to this, the cream rises to the top.
The cream does rise to the top, absolutely, and that's where, I think what you see is a lot of times girls who are consistent, it pays off because we are judging. I mean, I'm a rule follower, so you said that, and I was like, "Yes, sir, that's what we're gonna do." And when you judge each girl individually in that moment, you know, she may not have won interview, but she showed out in her talent, and you're not gonna you this is what I think got to me. We are not going to deny her the privilege of a 10 in talent because she didn't perform an interview. She worked her butt off for that talent, so we are gonna honor her in that moment. But going back to interview, I do wanna mention something that you said to our judges as you were prepping us for interview that I think it's important for you guys to hear, is you said to all of us, I want you to judge these women on what they're saying, how they're delivering it, not whether or not you agree with their answer.
100%.
Because we live in quick cancel culture. We live in a very diverse and divided nation where people are penalized for their opinion. But I think what's beautiful about this organization is that you aren't penalized for your opinion if someone disagrees with you.
That's okay. And I think that that was when you get the best winner is when you don't look at their race, you don't look at their politics, you don't look at their religion, you don't look at all those things. You look at what that person has accomplished. And when we were choosing the five judges, as I said to you when I called you on the phone and we talked, and then we had dinner, is when I asked you to judge, it was because you had been a producer for The Bachelorette and The Bachelor. You had produced several shows. You were beautiful. You had been Miss South Carolina, USA. You understood pageantry.
Yeah.
That is what I went off of. But then I learned that you are so much more than that. And not only because of your time in pageantry, but what life has served you too.
Yeah.
And so I think that that was the whole thing with each panel is you want to have diversity, because with diversity comes each person seeing something unique in all of the contestants,
Yeah.
because you're able to see beautiful things in each person. And yes, Davis became the South Carolina, but you also had some beautiful comments, and all of y'all had some really y'all had a tough group that competed, and y'all were very excited about who they were. When you talk about interview and you talk about the stories, and you talked about the emotion, do the stories win the pageant, or is the pageant won by the story?
I mean, the stories don't win the pageant for me. Everybody's got a story, but I think it's how connected are you to that story? It's the same thing of thinking, not judging the girl on her opinion, judging on how connected she is to that opinion. Is she rambling on and on and on about what we think what she thinks we want to hear, or is she truly connected and saying, no, this is what I believe. I'm not here to disagree or offend you, but this is what I believe. And I think it's the same thing with the girl's story. Davis's story didn't win the pageant for her, but her connection to it and the authenticity of what she was going to do with and through her story, that is what contributed to her winning the pageant. But also, I mean, there's so many other parts of the competition where she stood out as well.
So when we talk about community service initiatives, tell me, do you this day and age, and you kind of shared this afterwards,
Yeah.
how do you encourage these young ladies, their support system, and people judging? Do you feel like we've come to a time that it's all about the story?
I think when it comes to the community service initiatives, a lot of times people can lean on wanting to pull on heartstrings. And I mean, I think to take it back to Davis, her life experience does pull on your heartstrings, but that's not what it's about. How can what's the measurable impact that you're going to make with your community service initiative when it comes to a community service initiative? So I think I would toss it back to you because you gave me a great answer. When it comes to community service initiative, what's important?
I think in being able to lean into something that you are passionate about. I do think that there's always the sense of urgency,
Yeah.
but you can take it to the extreme.
Well, I think to your point, a lot of girls sometimes feel like they need to control the interview. They need to constantly be bringing it back to their community service initiative. But as judges, that's not what I'm looking for in the interview. I'm not looking to have, you know, an essay about your community service initiative. I've already read your essay about your community service initiative. I want to know who you are. And if I feel like I have questions about the community service initiative, I'll ask them. But there's so much more to the girl than her community service initiative. So,
Well, you mentioned something just a few minutes ago, and that was social media.
mhm.
How big of a part does it play in your life today? And how big of a part does it play as a judge when you are judging these candidates or when you were judging these candidates?
Yeah, I mean, social media is a massive part of everyone's life experience today, I think. As a judge, I definitely looked at the social media of all of the finalists.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Did you do it prior to coming, or did you wait till you narrowed down the field?
I did it prior to coming a little bit because I am big on a more natural headshot because my opinion is that when I see your headshot, the purpose is so that when you're standing in front of me or when you're lined up, I know who I'm looking at. And so when I first got my judge's book, there were some headshots that I thought, I just want to see what this girl really looks like because some of them were kind of airbrushed to death. So, when we got our top 10, it was a tough, getting it down to that was tough. And then I think, you can have a gut instinct in interview about how authentic a girl is. But when you go to someone's social media, you get a real quick knowledge of, oh, okay, this girl is exactly who she says she was, or okay, this girl in front of me, she was this, but on the weekends, she's that. So, we take it seriously. This is a job interview, and the amount of scholarships that you guys have available, this is a life-changing opportunity. And as judges, we were going to put it in the hands of somebody who is going to cherish it and make the most of it. And we wanted to make sure that the girl we were seeing in front of us was the same.
Is there a fine line between she's living as a 21-year-old or a 22-year-old,
Of course.
and what's inappropriate or what? I mean, tell me that fine line. I mean, let's be honest. When I first started, it was there wasn't social media, and I mean, I can remember thinking, that girl is so amazing," and then you would hear, "Well, honey, on the weekends, she is
I mean,
she is in
so I didn't have social media.
she is in this sorority and whatever." Or I remember one time my incredible mentor, Frances Kendall, who is no longer with us. We had a girl, and she would come back and she'd say, "Honey, them thighs, you cannot get rid of them thighs. Where's them thighs? Your butt, blah, blah, blah." And she would say, "Well, I'm trying, I'm working out." And she would leave, and she said, "But on Friday and Saturday, she can't let down the beer bottle." And that was the truth. I mean, but we didn't have any evidence, but now people are snapping pictures all the time.
Yeah.
Should that hinder a girl from in her quest to becoming Miss South Carolina or Miss America? Does that diminish her or tarnish her?
I mean, my advice to any contestant is if you wanna be Miss America, you should ask yourself on a daily basis, "Is this Miss America behavior?" And that might not be fun, but it's the truth, you know?
I think the same goes for people in leadership.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I think we're a little more liberal, and yes, there was a time where it's almost like you were condemned for your lifestyle. You can, for me as a gay man, I can bring a beautiful girl to walk on that stage, but I was, talked about because of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I think that that's an interesting, perspective of, um, I think you can be who you want to be, but it's just do it with class and lean
Absolutely.
into the, still being authentic to who you are and not putting on airs.
Absolutely.
So we've talked a lot about social media and interview, and I think that they probably want to hear us talk about some of the other phases of competition,
Let's do it.
especially, um, do we go down the fitness, talent, or the evening gown track?
Well, let's start with fitness.
Well, what do you have to say about that? Because I will tell you, one of winning a fitness award is like winning Miss America to me.
Yep.
Watching Davis's performance on stage, I'm like, that girl is confident.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like she knew, and I think that she had prepared, like, I can win all of these phases of competition. They may give them all to me because she had won all of them here, or they may split these up. They may share it or whatever. And I mean, I will never forget, when she won fitness, they handed her the card that said Miss South Carolina, and she handed it to me and she said, "Cherish this because I know this means a lot to you." And that was so meaningful to me because my thought process is, and I would love to hear your feedback is, if you set yourself up for success when it comes to fitness, and you have set yourself up for life and have set yourself up for the competition. Now, I'm never going to be um, have the best body, but I do feel like I eat properly and stuff like that. But I do push these young women in that direction because I think if your mind's right, you fit in.
Yep.
If your body's right, you fit all the clothes. And if you're emotionally fit, then you fit the competition. Like you can handle all those things,
Yeah.
those aspects. So when you're judging, how do you say that girl, that is the health and fitness winner? How do you say that's who she is?
I mean, I think there's a lot of different factors that go into it, but when it comes to fitness, I think one thing that fitness speaks to me is healthy choices, self-discipline, self-control. Um, and like I said, prior to being in pageants, I was a model and I might have looked good, I might have looked thin, but I wasn't fit. There's a difference, and I think, like, medically, there's a clear definition of what health and fitness is, and you wanna be within that window, you know? And so that's what I was looking for, was a girl who was healthy and fit. I could tell that she took really great care of herself.
How can you tell if someone that's just a moment for someone or that's her lifestyle?
I don't really know how to articulate it, but it's just a you can just tell when someone walks across that stage with confidence, and you can just tell in their body that they've worked hard and consistently to be physically fit.
Um, what would be your sound advice to these girls, as they prepare?
Well, Kristen White, she said to me, "For me, fitness tells me about that girl's lifestyle. It tells me, does this girl wake up every day and go to the gym and take care of herself? Does this girl take this serious enough that she's making healthy food decisions? And it also tells me, is this girl out partying every weekend? Because if so, you can tell in the body, So I think the fitness portion really is, it sort of, again, it backs up who you've said you are in an interview. We can see on stage, well, does your lifestyle match that?
Well, moving right along to the next phase of competition that is in the great thing and I love about Miss America now is we're on a level playing field.
Yep.
So talent,
Mhm.
20%. How do you feel? There's so many unique talents.
Yeah.
When do you know that like this is the difference of being well trained and a passion?
That's a great question. Talent is interesting because there's so many different judges judging. So for me, I have seen every talent under the sun because I produce so many seasons of America's Got Talent. So I have some real clarity on what talent is. But I would say for me as a judge, There are some talents that I have such clarity on, is this person truly talented? But if I don't know, for example, clogging, I don't know anything about clogging. I couldn't tell you anything technical, but what I do know is, was that entertaining? And I think that's something to take into account is, the judges may or may not know about your specific talent, but they sure do know, was that entertaining and was that fun to watch? Were they on the edge of their seat saying, "Oh my gosh, that was a performance."
Do you think that we should modernize, like, with song choices? Did you
Yes,
feel
God, please, please. I mean, I'm just like, these songs are from the '80s, and some of them, "We Believe the Children of the Future," it gets me every time, but I think we could come into the, at least 2000s. I agree.
but so often people say, "Well, it's just it scores well every time."
Is I mean, I think there's a lot of within pageant culture, there's a lot of it's almost like superstition. Like, "Oh my god, Davis wore a black dress last year and she won, so this year I'm gonna wear a black dress." Well, no, it wasn't the black dress that made her win. It was how she wore that dress, you know? And I think it's the same thing for the talent. Well, maybe I didn't enjoy that particular song choice for your dance, but I couldn't deny that you were brilliant. But I sure woulda had a better time watching it if it was a more fun song.
When it comes to instrumental talent, do you is it the classics, the Beethoven, Bach,
I mean,
or
I think I would say whatever you love, whatever song you love, whatever you vibe with, whatever you want people to know about you,
it is hard as if you're born in the '90s and 2000s to relate to something in the '80s.
I would think so, but if you do,
Now I still can relate
lean
to Last
into
Dance, I can relate to, I Wanna Dance with Somebody, I feel it in my bones.
same,
I feel it in my bones,
but I think
but I can't dance to it and I can't sing it. Um, but so speaking about talent, to wrap talent up,
yes.
what is it that that you're just like, when is it? How can you tell the confidence in their talent? What is it that speaks to you as the confidence in the talent?
I mean, I would say talent is probably the clearest cut part of the competition for me because it's just obvious. There are some people that are so exceptionally talented, you can't deny them. You can't. It's just like,
So if
God,
they're
that voice
singing
or
time, so if they're singing "Time to Say Goodbye" or "O Mio Bambino Car," and they're so phenomenal, you're still gonna give them the 10.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I'm just saying as an enjoyment perspective, I think modernizing it would be beneficial to everyone,
Brilliant.
but I'm not gonna penalize you for your song choice. We're here to see, whether you're a great dancer, whether you're whatever the talent is. Um, but I would say it's the easiest because you can tell who has truly put in the effort and worked for that talent, and that is the easiest place to say, like, "She did that."
How do you convince these girls to not emulate what they've seen in the past? Because the same panel is not judging.
I know.
How do you and what are some key things that you like or that you found to be wow factors in judging that phase of the competition?
I think for me and this is something that my pageant coach told me when I was, competing, he said, "When you walk out in that gown, there needs to be no denying that the only thing missing is a crown on your head." And you don't want the dress to distract, like and for me, I think he wanted to really make sure that I knew, like, this is not a fashion show. This is about you coming out on stage and showing how elegant you are, how poised you are. This is how you would walk a red carpet, you know? Um,
But does fashion so just to clarify or get your opinion, does fashion have a place though now in the Miss America organization? Because I feel like we are becoming a little more fashion forward.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at Davis's dress at Miss America. It was like, I mean, so gorgeous. But you also have to keep in mind, you're gonna have a panel of judges that are gonna have very different taste in fashion. So I think, yes, fashion is important, but the most important thing is that you feel comfortable in your dress. That when you step out on that stage, you are glowing because you are obsessed with your dress and that you are wearing shoes that you can
Oh, good. I want to talk
confidently
about two things.
walk in.
Tell me what you think about the tippy tops.
I I am not a fan, that
Well,
personally.
well, there's a Miss America rule, so just so I can throw this out, you can wear them here. We have not established a rule that says you cannot wear tippy tops, but at Miss America, there's a rule that you cannot have a front platform that's any higher than 2 inches.
I mean, I think your number one priority when it comes to evening gowns should be walking with poise and elegance, not height.
So it's like you pay $8,000 for a gown for a $40 shoe.
Yes,
I mean, it
it
just doesn't make
shouldn't.
sense to me.
Mm-mm. And then another thing I want to say about evening gown is please, please, I am begging you, remember, you're standing right here, but the judges are down below. So you need to,
So what you're telling us is you saw some people, you really got to know
I saw
some of
the
the girls.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to really know them. You knew who they were.
Yes.
There was no doubt.
Mm-mm. So when you're trying on a dress, make sure that you guys are like, go up high and let your, truth squad, I would call it, sit in the judge's position and make sure that the dress is flattering from our angle and also not too revealing.
Do you, as a judge, know the cost of the gown?
No,
Do you think that the cost matters?
no.
Do you think you should change the gown every time that you compete?
If you want to, if you didn't like the dress that you wore before, but I mean, you have to keep in mind, your judges don't know. We come from all over the country. Everybody has these big fun careers and big fun lives, and we come for a quick week. We don't know anything about what has happened.
So, to kind of wrap the phases of competition up, and then we'll talk a little bit, and then we're going to get into the fun stuff.
Yeah.
What with onstage question is that? How difficult of a competition is that really to judge?
For me, I don't think it's that difficult because, um, I mean, I've been in that position and I hate onstage question. Like you guys, to be totally honest, when I was at Miss USA, I'm sorry to admit this, Mom, I was glad that I didn't make it to the top 5 because I did not want to answer an onstage question on national television.
She's gotten past all the money she spent.
Oh God. But so I have a lot of grace. I have a lot of grace for onstage question. And I also think that from my experience with the judges last year, everybody had a lot of grace when it comes to onstage question because we know what you're up against. We were still looking for that same thing we were looking in interview. We wanted the authenticity. We wanted the girl to be connected to what she was saying and not just giving the right answer or rambling on, trying to figure out how can I say this in a way that's going to be pleasing to everybody? Just a girl that came out and was straightforward and totally honest and fully herself. Yes.
How much of that outfit played into your scoring?
For me, none.
As it should. I just wanted
I was,
to
the focus is on, because here's the thing. I know you, and I know that if this girl wins Miss South Carolina and I didn't like her wardrobe, I'm not concerned because you're going to get it all fixed by the time she goes to Miss America.
where there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely.
So moving on to lottery.
Yes.
What factor do you think it plays in
In judging.
it?
I cannot express this enough. We are not comparing you guys against one another. It doesn't matter who came in before you or who comes in after you. We are judging you. You being in front of us is your moment, and no one is taking away from that. The girl that just came in, it doesn't matter how amazing she did. We're not going to compare you against her. And it doesn't matter if she did terribly. We're not going to be like, oh, well, this one, we need to give her a good score. It is your moment to shine. So I think when you're picking your placement, like you can probably talk to this a little bit more than I can. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions when it comes to the lottery? And why do you think the girls should pick their place?
So first of all, if you're a morning person and you're thinking about interview, if I know that I'm really good in the morning, then I need to be in the morning.
Yeah.
I know that I'm better in the afternoon, so I probably am going to aim for an afternoon spot or further down the line because in the morning it just takes me a little bit. I can run all night
Yeah.
But during the morning, I just need a little bit of time. And I think you have to know, as far as the interview is concerned, you kind of have to know that is really the only part that I've always just kind of fixated on
Yeah.
is when you have 10 minutes with those judges to ensure that you are at your best mindset.
Placement absolutely does not matter when it comes to the judges, but I do think what you're saying is accurate. It is about authenticity, which I know is a buzzword that we all hate to hear, but you have to be true to yourself and you have to be true to your process. So I think in every step of the process, it's so vital that you guys know yourselves and you're making these decisions, whether it's your placement, whether it's your evening gown, whatever it is, based on who you are and what you want. This is your opportunity.
What is the best advice from your time judging to tonight when they are choosing?
Just like you said, if you're a morning person, get that early spot. If you do better in the afternoon, set yourself up for success.
So,
That's
Ashley, if I'm the girl tonight that is the last one chosen, what do you say to me? What
good. Save the best for last. Oh, I think something that you always have to keep in mind is what's meant for you won't miss you.
I want to thank you, Ashley, for this first phase of conversation. We are going to highlight any questions that y'all have if anyone has any questions.
My question, as a first time contestant, what is your advice to somebody who's never done this before but wants to perform their best?
I mean, I would say choose a group of people to surround yourself with who are really honest with you and who will give you really honest feedback on every part of the competition. Um, I think sometimes truth is hard to hear, but the more that you can hear those hard truths and really continue to improve and improve and improve, the better that you're going to do.
I think trust the support system to help you and let your parents and your family be those individuals that are hyping you up and are just like, "Hey, you've got this." But let the people who've done this before or who've been here before guide you along the way because they've been successful in the process.
That don't feel like because you're new that means you don't have a chance.
Because listen, there's been a lot of girls that have been new.
And the
Um,
judges don't know. We don't know if it's your first time or your 50th time unless you tell us. So, yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions?
Okay, my name is Emma K. Connolly and I'm Miss Malden this year. But my question is, do you prefer when a girl has a talent that performs to the audience, or would you rather us continue to make direct contact with the judges throughout the performance?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I think it's important to perform for the entire audience, which does include the judges, but there's a whole audience there that's there to support you. So connecting with them is, I think, also very important.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Haley. I'm Miss Abbeville, and I have a question. I have tattoos. My question to you as a judge is if a girl has tattoos, do you want us to cover them or do you see it as a form of self-expression? What are you looking for?
That's a catch-22 for me. I'm married to a man that has a whole slate. So clearly I like tattoos. I think it is how it reads in the story that you're trying to tell.
Hi, I'm Ava. I would like to know what interview question that you'd like to hear asked in an interview that allows girls to showcase themselves the most.
Um, I don't think there's one interview question. For the judges, we're just looking to have a conversation with you guys. So it's not the question, not one specific question that brings out your personality. It's it's the back and forth. So the more that you lean into the conversation, the more that you like go there with the questions that the judges are asking, and the more that you're honest with what they're, wanting to know, the more we're going to get to know you.
I think one of the questions that I've always asked in the pageants that I've judged is, Oprah Winfrey ends every one of her articles in her magazine with what I know for sure. And I think if you set yourself up with what you know for sure, and you can, contrary to if you were asked that question or anything like that, you are able to disseminate that to the panel of judges and clearly let them know who you are and what you know for sure. If it's about who you are, your social impact initiative, whatever, have that statement ready for that panel.
I'm gonna ask a quick question before our next one, just because it goes down the same pathway. Talk a little bit about how the young woman in the room is actually the one in control of the interview.
I think it's an interesting dynamic because contestants can come in with a mission, and it may not be the same mission as the judges. And so, yes, you are in control of the information that you give us, and you can guide us down a particular trail, but I think you have to be really skilled in how you do it. And that's where preparation comes in when it comes to interview. You guys should be practicing your interview questions over and over and over again, not because you need to have rehearsed answers, but because you need to be confident in what you're saying.
Hi, my name is Shelby. I'm Miss Sea Islands. And I had a question of what is the most memorable quality a contestant can showcase that will leave a lasting impression on the judges?
Well, I can tell you from last year, the most memorable contestant in an interview, she made us laugh. And it we're not looking for a comedian to come into the interview, but someone that is so confident in themselves that they can loosen up and allow the judges to even laugh because we're tense too. Like we're doing job interviews and we want to pick the right girl, you know. That I mean, that girl, I remember her to this day. She was one of my favorites in interview because she was so confident in herself that she actually brought us all to a place of laughter.
Sometimes it's, we're as someone who, if you're interviewing, I mean, I judged Georgia last year and there were 60 girls. We're tired. And if the same girl keeps coming in telling us the same thing, the same way or a different way, it's nice to have someone who just is like, hey, I've been standing out there for 15 minutes. I am just worn out. I've been nervous, whatever, just whatever it is, and just lightens the mood. I think it's kind of like what Aaron said when you walk into the room and you're just like, hey, I mean, in Georgia, this girl, she said, um, one of the judges had to take a break. She said, well, I understand that y'all had to take a break. She's like, but I was the last contestant and this has extended this interview, time for a long time. And it just was refreshing that she was just kind of made light of it versus being just so in there, so serious, goes back to being who you are.
But I just want to say, I am definitely not saying that you need to be funny because I'm not funny. So I I don't want to put that pressure on anybody. It really is
Well,
just
she was asking you, and
yeah,
I
it's
didn't.
just
But I
about
think
confidence.
I think it's about just being real.
Let's say someone asked a question, the girl is in the middle of answering it. It was more on the lighthearted side, and then the timer cuts her off. It's time for her closing or the opportunity to continue that question. From the judge's perspective, talk a little bit about the opportunity to do one, finish the question, go into the closing, and the transition, right? Because sometimes it can be really awkward. You're having fun, and then 10,000 squirrels were ran over in 2023. You know what I mean? Like, talk a little bit about, some of
It's tough. It's tough. It is an uncomfortable moment, but I think it's important that you guys know that the judges recognize that it's an uncomfortable moment and you're put in an uncomfortable position. And I think you have to ask yourself in that moment, what is the wisest decision I can make right now? Is continuing to answer this going to show the judges who I am, even if it's light? Or do I need to pivot because there's something that I really wanted them to know about me that I wasn't able to articulate? But I think it's kind of a game time decision that you have to really be prepared to make in that moment.
I have something have always wanted to hear, especially from a former USA girl. What makes the Miss America organization stand out compared to all the other? You have volunteer, you have USA, you have United States, all the other pageants. Why the Miss America organization? And I want to hear your take as a former USA girl.
Well, this is probably a shallow answer, but I'm just going to be honest. The crown. There is no more beautiful crown in the world than the crown that is on your head. I mean, you guys, if I had had a talent, I would have loved to participate in the Miss America organization just so that I could have that beautiful crown on my head. But I also think when it comes to this organization in particular, you guys are just set apart. You know, you are not in this for the glamour and the beauty. And I mean, you are glamorous and beautiful, which is amazing. But it's an organization that truly is empowering to women. And for me, Barbie is my number one feminist icon because what she told me as a little girl is you can be beautiful and you can do everything you want to do. You could be an astronaut, you could be the president, you can do it all. And that's what, to me, the Miss America organization represents.
My name is Constance Mixon. I'm Miss Low Country, and my question is on the opposite end of the coin as the first question, which is what is a piece of advice you would give to the returner girls that keep constantly coming back and are quote unquote missing the mark?
Gosh, that's a great question.
I'm going to just say, do you feel like you're growing? Do you feel you're better today than you were the last time? Then it's working.
And I would say, what's your why? Why are you continuing to come back? And when you look back on why you've quote unquote missed the mark, are you being honest with yourself about why, that has happened? And then again, I just surrounding yourself with the right people who give you constructive, honest criticism is so important because you need those people that are going to be honest, that say like, "Hey, I love you so much, but this is it. This is the little thing that we're missing." But on the flip side of that, you've got to be careful because some of those people can really dim your shine and be giving you bad advice. So I think it's important to just find that honest group of people who really love you and are getting you where you want to be.
I think Chaz is spot on when it comes to growth and being different. I competed for the first time as a Miss at 18, won at 22, and the person that I was at 22 is not the same girl at 18, right? And when I look back on it now, yes, I competed a million thousand times, but I would have never been as good of a Miss South Carolina had I won any of the other years.